Hey guys, what's up? My name is Anthony, and welcome to another edition of B&A Sports Talk. So, there's been a lot of talks about Ezekiel Elliott rolling around now. My opinion has shifted, but I haven't really talked a lot about it as much as I wanted to. So, in the beginning, I was just like, you have to pay Zeke. Zeke's the guy. And I thought the Cowboys were going to be really dysfunctional as one of those guys. Then I kind of went on the bandwagon of, you know what, the Cowboys, the way that the way Stephen Jones is speaking, they're like, you know what, we're all going to be together. The way Dak Prescott loves Jerry Jones, the way that the whole thing, which is working together, was like really nice. It seemed like they're all going to get along, and all of them were going to get paid, and all of them were going to sing Kumbaya. But now, as I keep on looking at it, I'm starting to not like the Cowboys again. And yeah, I think that they're going to be around 9-7 this year, because when the expectations are the highest, they go the lowest. And this brings a lot of comparisons. This and Melvin Gordon's holdout brings a lot of comparisons to last year with Le'Veon Bell. And let me give you a few takeaways that I have from the situation. First of all, it's not about your number 2 running back. Remember, we said all along, we're just like, James Conner is just as good as Le'Veon Bell. He has more yards per attempt. We're saying the same thing about Austin Eckler, the guy behind Melvin Gordon right now. And, you know, the Steelers had one of the worst running games of anybody last year. They were ranked 31st last year. It's not about your number 2. It's about your number 3. You know, with the Steelers, they had Le'Veon Bell as their premier back. They targeted him around 110 times. He had 85 receptions the year before he held out. And yeah, last year James Conner only had 55 catches with around 90 targets. You know, it was definitely less. Even though James Conner did get injured, he was definitely less featured. And then behind him, you had a guy named Jalen Schuster or Jalen. I forget the guy's name, but it's about that number 3 guy, especially if you're a team that does, you know, the number 1 guy and then kind of a running back by committee behind him. It doesn't matter about that number 1. It's about that number 2 behind the guy that you want to pick. Let's get off that point. Another point I want to make, this is why you draft best player available. This is exactly why you draft best player available, so you don't get handicapped. Now the Dallas Cowboys are going to have to bring in a guy, Alfred Morris, who, you know, he's serviceable, but he's 30 years old. You draft the best player available so you don't get handicapped by these situations. You go, oh, this guy has all the leverage. Oh, now he has all the leverage and everything's going to go to shit. You know, the Cowboys spend $60 million just on their offensive line. Well, teams like the Patriots, teams like the Seahawks, they know how to spread their money. They know how to financially manage their money. The Philadelphia Eagles, they don't spend too much on every single position. They give each position the same amount of stress, and they stick at what they do good. That's not what the Cowboys do. The $60 million for, you know, offensive line. Then all of a sudden you're going to pay so much for cornerbacks. The Jacksonville Jaguars are paying $35 million a cornerback. And that's before they pay, or I'm not sure if they're going to pay, but that's before they pay Jalen Ramsey. There's a chart called Over the Cap where you can see specific positions where every team plays each other. The smart teams are more fiscally responsible, and different teams are at different moments with how many rookies they have. But if you notice, I'm going to probably throw up a chart. The Patriots are way better spreading their money and realizing when to jump on and when to jump off guys. That's what the Patriots are good at. Now, as far as value and finding value about each player, a bunch of people, especially in baseball, are doing the sabermetrics thing. Like, we're not going to pay you over your value. Sometimes a guy's invaluable to your team. And sometimes you can't quite put it on a chart what he means in the locker room, what he means about everything, and if you get rid of him, what's going to happen? That's what happened with the Los Angeles Dodgers last year when they decided to bench all their 4 greatest home run hitters. Even though, like, they might have still lost the game if they played all those 4 guys, and it might have been the same exact result, and they increased their odds. The optics of it don't look great, and it doesn't take into account, like, the impacts of it afterwards. So there's only a certain amount of things that stats can tell you. There's one more point I wanted to make, but I forgot it. Let me think about it real quick, and we'll get back. At the end of the year, we have a bunch of stats, but they don't deliver any context. Like the guy, Kirk Cousins, who throws the ball late in games and throws, pads his stats at the end of games. And you look at his stats, you go, oh, he does great. But at the end of the season, when all this comes, we realize that all these stats are without context. All of them are just, You look at the stats in summation, but there's a story behind them. With Dak Prescott, we're looking at all these stats. Oh, look how well he did in the last 8 games. There's a certain value that certain players have to certain teams. It doesn't mean that he should be paid $35 million. I made this point a couple weeks ago. It's a pie to the chart. How much are you worth to your team? I know the salary cap is increasing, and I think the Dallas Cowboys can find a way to work it out, but you're worth a certain percentage to your team. There's a certain point. After 15% of the cap, players aren't successful. The teams aren't successful with the player. You have Aaron Rodgers now. It's getting paid around 17% of the cap. You can almost rule them out. The Philadelphia Eagles, they're not paying Carson Wentz 18% of the cap for another 2 years, so they have a little window. Think about it. There's contract extensions, and then there's contracts. Dak Prescott is not actually going to get paid for another year. Like this year, he's getting paid $400,000 no matter what happens. Zeke Elliott, this year, he's getting paid that much no matter what. So I would keep that into effect when you're saying, oh, we're getting paid for this much money. No, if Zeke Elliott signs a 4-year, $50 million extension, he's still getting paid $7 or $8 million for these next 2 years. It's just the extension to the end of the contract because they picked up his 5th-year option. So when comparing 2 different teams from last year with the Steelers and Le'Veon Bell's holdout, you look at it, the Steelers, why weren't they successful last year? It's because they could not close it out in those big games. It's because Ben Roethlisberger couldn't throw. It's because they couldn't rely on their run game late in games. I'll throw out some stats here. And Ben Roethlisberger completion percentage went way down. His passer rating went way down in the fourth quarter. And I think this is for a couple of things. Now, I'm not a screen film junkie, but I think that this is because that run game wasn't steady throughout the game. You can bring up all these yards per attempt, but there's context behind these stats. You can put in a guy like Austin Eckler behind a guy like Melvin Gordon and put him in ideal situations. You could put him in 3rd and long where the team is backing up. So there's context behind these stats that I don't know completely. But the bottom line is Anthony Lynn is a good running back coach. He's worked with running backs his entire life. That's what he does. And I think I have confidence in him finding a guy. Now, as far as where Ezekiel Elliott, that huge trade that the Cowboys did a couple of years ago, or like 30 years ago now, but where can Ezekiel Elliott land? And there are only a few teams looking for a real running back like Ezekiel Elliott. And I think that Bruce Arians and the Tampa Bay would be a really good fit. But who would they give up? I don't know. This team doesn't really have that many weapons. What would the Dallas Cowboys need? What would they need back? Well, first of all, they would need a new running back. That would be one of the things. But are you going to be a Super Bowl champion with Alfred Morris? The Dallas Cowboys are hamstrung. They don't have that many options, and that's because they didn't draft best player available. For the past couple of years, they drafted based on need, and drafting based on need ultimately hurts you. So the Dallas Cowboys with Zeke Elliott, not too many teams. You go down to NFC West, I think all of them are set at running back right now. All of them feel fairly confident in who they have. NFC North, Tariq Cohen fits with the Bears. Dalvin Cook, if he stays healthy, he's going to be fine. Maybe the Green Bay Packers, but I think that would be a pretty good fit. But, I don't think you trade with in-conference rival, a team that you've gone back and forth with. Unless that relationship is really frayed, I don't like that. I don't like the Lions. They're fine. The NFC South, they're all good with running back. Christian McCaffrey, Devontae Freeman. I think they're all good with running back. Maybe the Falcons. But I don't see who the Cowboys would get back. The Falcons have a lot of young offensive linemen, not too many that are strong. You have the Redskins who are looking to get rid of Trent Williams. I don't think that they need a running back with Adrian Peterson, plus in-division trades don't really work that well. Let's go over to the AFC. Patriots are doing running back by committee. The Dolphins, maybe, but I think they're rebuilding for something much greater. I think that Ezekiel Elliott could be a good fit, but, who would you get? The Miami Dolphins have some good corners. They have a couple of young studs on defense, but I think that they're going to try to build behind those guys. I think they're tanking this year. The Bills, they have Frank Gore. They have a couple other running backs that they, have. The Jets, obviously, Le'Veon Bell. The AFC South, I think, is all set with who they want. Maybe the Texans, but Houston in division with Texas. And maybe you can do a swap trade with Jadeveon Clowney on a defensive end. Then you have a Lawrence Clowney thing. That's another possibility. You have the Jaguars, Jalen Ramsey. He's a good corner, but you already have some decent corners and the decent defensive backs in Dallas. I say, overall, if you're the Dallas Cowboys, you just try to mend this relationship. This relationship has been frayed, and I think if you're the Dallas Cowboys, you show how much that you want him and how much you need him. You coddle him, you bring him in. Zeke Elliott is doing this 2 years out. Le'Veon Bell only did his a year out. He said, I'm not signing the franchise tag and I can do anything next year. Zeke Elliott is saying this year, you know what? I'm going to do it because I have 2 years left under your control. So he's basically saying trade me or sign me. He's giving them two options. He's not giving he can't hold out, because think about 2 years without playing. That would be awful for Ezekiel Elliott, and that would only decrease his trade value. We saw what happened with Le'Veon Bell, and that only decreases value 2 years out of the sport. I mean, come on, what are you going to wait for the end of the year? The Dallas Cowboys are going to need you, and this is just a standstill, and it's a really, really tough spot if you're the Dallas Cowboys. So it's not my problem, and I'm just glad I'm a Giants fan because we're a little bit more succinct that's not the right word. We're a little bit more secure at running back. We have some other problems that we may have. Offensive line doesn't look as strong as we would like. But if I'm the Chargers, I would offer, Melvin Gordon $10 to $12 million a year. We'll front load it. And, if you pick it up, great. But if not, it will be fine with that too. We're good with the team we have forward. But that might hurt the Chargers, to be totally honest. And they may end up like the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is ultimately what I'm afraid of. The Steelers were unable to have a steady run game throughout the entire season. James Conner was getting hurt, and that really hurt them going into later this season because their depth got destroyed. It's not about your overall the number one guy. It's about the number two, number three guy giving the new number one guy a rest. And I hope that this kind of has been a streamline of thoughts that have been that made sense. I think my overall opinion has gone out. The Chargers and Dallas Cowboys do have some problems, but you're gonna have problems every single year. The Chargers are not a really well-run franchise. Dean Spanos, and they've kind of been just a mess with everything that they've been doing. And just when I was about to upload this video, Melvin Gordon saying he wants to be traded. Teams need a running back. The Texans and the Bills are very much formidable. Then you have Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think he's going to fare well. All these teams are warm climates besides the Bills. I think the Bills want to do more ground and pound. I don't think Melvin Gordon would work in that climate. And yeah, I can't believe he wanted a trade, and that kind of takes back a couple of things that I've said. As far as the Chargers, what they should do from here, they need to look to bolster their secondary because that's a little bit weak right now. So if you can get a team like Tampa who has a pretty good secondary, the Bills don't have a horrible secondary, and you can get some return on that, that'd be great. As far as their running back situation, you're going to have to do running back by committee, and I believe in Anthony Lynn, his ability to be a running back coach because that's his bread and butter, and he knows how to find talent, and you're going to have to get a guy off the streets. A couple guys off the streets you can get. The most obvious one is Theo Riddick, who just got released. That's fresh in everyone's brain. He's a 6-year vet, played with the Lions. I think he's a good pick. Jay Ajayi is still available. You have Charkandrick West, who played for Kansas City. You also have Jaquiz Rogers, Chris Ivory, Jonathan Stewart, who's a little bit old. I think he's not really that favorable. Marshawn Lynch, maybe, but he said the only team he'd play for is Oakland. Playing for an in-division rival, the Chargers, not that likely. And LeGarrette Blount. These are the names right now that I could see the Chargers grabbing these guys. There's just some names that are out there. We'll be talking about that over the next couple of days as this story develops further. But yeah. By the way, the reason why I mentioned players instead of draft picks, I know Ezekiel Elliott could probably get a Khalil Mack type deal where you get 2 first-rounders and some trade swaps and some draft swaps. And I know Melvin Gordon, his draft stock is probably about a second or third rounder, like a second and a fifth or a third. The only reason why I mention this is because a lot of teams aren't looking for draft picks this year. The Cowboys and Chargers are looking to compete for a Super Bowl. So if they're losing one of their main guys, they're going to want some guys back right now who can help them win. They're not looking for pieces 2 or 3 years down the line when they develop. And no, they're looking for guys now. So that's the only reason why I mentioned some players. Obviously, if you get a piece and then a fifth, or a piece then a fourth, then, we start talking, but they're going to want some compensation right away. The Chargers' weaknesses, again, are O-line, a little bit of secondary, and the Cowboys' weakness, they may want to get another offensive lineman. They're going to need another running back, but that won't be via trade. They'll pick somebody off waiver wire. And their secondary maybe needs a guy or two. Maybe get a defensive back or two. Somebody help on the defensive line. A piece like that. The Dallas Cowboys, they've always brought in some guys with problems and some guys, and they brought a lot of these problems within themselves. And then all of a sudden Jalen Smith comes out. All of a sudden Byron Jones comes out, and they're going to start making noise. And that's only going to hurt this team. Only a well-run team can fix these problems. We see with the Eagles how they just got rid of Nick Foles so quickly. They jumped off him because we don't need him anymore. That's a well-run franchise, and we see the kind of the contrast with this. Anyway, hope you guys enjoy this video. Let me know your opinions about all this in the comment section down below. While you're down there, please comment, favorite, and subscribe if you haven't already. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.